funny? I remember when Soul Center's congregation wasn't this big.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking around and we can spread out a little bit and we can honor what medical professionals have done. We've got you streaming in. But I can remember watching and witnessing the growth of this community. And we're still here. We're still going to be here. And I'm just so in love with that. I'm so in love with the energy. Yes! You know how we do. Coronavirus ain't changed nothing. Nothing that wasn't already in the physical plane is suddenly in the physical plane. We can adapt. That's what human beings do. That's why we have survived extinction. Human beings know how to adapt and to still maintain our joy, to maintain our love, to maintain our peace, to maintain our recognition of beauty. Yes?
Yes.
So we're going to get into this today because there's plenty going on. I've got plenty going on. You've got plenty going on. The world is kind of up to something these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
Never in the history of humanity have we experienced what we're experiencing right now. Never in the history of humanity have what we do been called for more than right now. The teachers that have been establishing these things, that have done the work, the people like Reverend Keith, like Reverend Michael, all of these people who have been digging, excavating, harnessing that which is beyond the physical realm, have been doing it because there are things in this physical realm that are always reminding us in some lie or illusion that we have no power over it, that there is something that is out of our control. But the reality is that the world of effects, this physical world, is not reality.
Right.
It's not the real thing. I'm not saying that things don't happen. I'm not saying that there isn't a virus. But what I'm saying is, as Reverend Michael reminded us this week, do not take the nightmare pill. Do not all of a sudden become afflicted with the virus of the mind. For many of us, it is our mind that is giving us more of a stress or a fear or a worry than anything that's actually happening to us. So that's the place that we're starting. Right? That's the place that we're entering into the conversation today. And of course, Soul Center has a wonderful theme that we're working with this, which is out of the darkness and into the light. Ooh, I can't wait to tell you a little bit about that. But also my topic today is so essential for what we are embarking on. Topic today is everywhere I am. Lean into that for a moment. Everywhere I am. You see, there is this conversation about darkness and light that brings up so many different approaches. There's a lot of conversation within people that causes them to run from darkness. And what I'm here to tell you is that darkness is as essential as the light. That you're going to move from the darkness into the light. You're going to go from the light back into darkness. You're going to move. There is a law of rhythm in the universe that these things are all necessary. How do I know? Because you don't like sleeping in the daylight all the time. That you don't thrive and have deep sleep when there's a room flooded full of light all the time. You have been designed. Your actual physical body has been designed to need darkness. It's in that darkness, in the depth of sleep, that you secrete, your body secretes from your pineal gland, melatonin. A lot of people take melatonin now to get extra sleep in a pill form. But your body naturally creates this, and many scientists talk about it's one of the cancer-fighting elements within the body in its natural function. But many of us are all about the light. So we don't like sleeping in the dark. We're not comfortable in the darkness. We gotta have the little TV on in the background. We gotta have our night light. There's some 67 and 47 and 27-year-olds with night lights. Even when you're not walking in the room. And this is not to disregard that. This is just an acknowledgement of how we function. But science matters. It's important. Because the universe has given us people who discovered a body of knowledge which we call science, which helps us navigate this physical world. And then we also have teachers who have developed a body of knowledge of spirituality that shows us this metaphysical science. And so we're able to take this on too. Yes?
Yes.
We're a both and community. We live in the body temple, but we are not ruled by the body temple. We have a mind, but we're not ruled by a mind because we know there is one mind. That mind is the one that we are connecting to. That's the one that tells us to turn right when we really want to turn left. That's that part of us that we need to explore more. I'm here to tell you that when we start talking about the darkness and we look at the metaphysical idea behind darkness, it's simply this: ignorance. It's simply this: the unknown. It's the cave that Luke Skywalker goes into to explore the darker aspect of his being. And when he gets into the cave, does anybody know who he finds? He thinks he finds Darth Vader, this evil force and figure in the series. But when Darth Vader, come on Brian, if you're going to do it, do it. You know I don't play. When he gets into the cave, behind the mask of Darth Vader is actually his face.
Yes.
And so the only thing that's in the darkness is who? Ourselves. So now as we start looking at this, we go out of the darkness, we go out of the parts of ourselves that we have not explored, that we don't understand. We don't understand our addiction. We don't understand our unhealthy relationships. We don't understand our inability to have a relationship with our mother, with our father. We don't understand why we haven't figured out how to manage finances. These are just things that we have not explored. And when we explore them, we move into the light.
Yes.
But all throughout the journey, the entire time, there's one thing that is always there. The present. The living presence. Whatever name you know it by. The popular term in America is God. The popular term in the Middle East might be Allah. The popular term on a reservation might be Great Spirit. Whatever it is, it's that source. It's that energy. It's that force that is behind, underneath everything. It is that thing which always is. But it's always there with you. It's there where the scientists are exploring what the what COVID-19 is. It's there in the hospital rooms. It's there on the battlefields. It's there on the empty basketball courts and the empty football fields right now. This presence is everywhere. And so when people are moving through this time of exploration, we're being called back to ourselves. We're being called back to take a look at who and what we are. And as we leave off everything that is unfolding, that is moving on around us, we find the divinity. Underneath all of your fears that you will explore, because I invite all of us to excavate our fears. We need to dig into them. We have an idea or an experience of fear, and we run away from it. We turn away from it. But the only way that you overcome your fear is to go to it. Now, you need some tools to go do an excavation, right? If you're an archaeologist, my favorite archaeologist is Indiana Jones. Yes. I don't know about you. But he had lots of tools, right? You need to figure out what you need to dig into your consciousness. Well, the first tool is meditation. I'm inviting you in this time to turn off the TV, turn off the radio, turn off the news. You only need so much information about something that you are not actively involved in solving. We are not actively involved in solving what is going on related to COVID-19. That's not our job. We've been given our marching orders, haven't we?
Yes.
You notice it because you got a little more room for your hips today in Soul Center. We're spread out a little bit, right? We're noticing it because we're being called to acknowledge each other in the physical way in a more of an honoring posture, not necessarily in the physical touch. Why? Because we are being exemplary examples. It's not because we're afraid. It's not because we're concerned primarily about anything in the physical realm. but we are a both and. I have a body. I am concerned about what I put in my body. Not walking around drinking from jugs of bleach. I'm not doing that because I want my body to keep doing what my body does. And so there is no difference in how we function in this scenario either. We've been given our guidance. And so then now what do? We become informed, we check in, we find out what we need to know, and then we go back to our practice.
Yes.
Your home, you're working from home, maybe you don't have to rush out to the office as much. Ooh, who gets to practice a little more meditation? Anybody up-leveling their meditation practice already? It's an opportunity. So many people have wished they had time off from work so that they could pursue some things, so that they could be creative. Get what they have now. They have a little time off. They have a little time off from work. They are being called into their creativity. When Rita and I were talking earlier and she shared about what Rob said she would do, like what are artists doing right now? What are retail people doing right now? What are people whose productions are not in service? A friend of mine posted a meme that just was like, he's an actor, pilot season, canceled. There's just so much going on, so we know all of that. But what do you know? You see, one of my teachers at Agape International Spiritual Center at Agape University always says that you've got to have a thing that you can lean into no matter what.
Yes.
You've got to have a principle that you can lean into. You're not always going to be gardening and basking in the sunshine and sipping lemonade. You might have more time to do that. But that may not be your everyday experience. Yesterday, my experience was being in the hospital with my aunt who's in recovery, who was found on the floor of her apartment just a couple of days ago, who had pneumonia for the very first time and had a 0 white blood cell count. That is staggering. By the time we got to her this week, she's doing well, she's cracking jokes, and she's complaining. You have the opportunity, I did in that situation, to go through all kinds of emotional roller coasters with her. She's living the roller coaster. I don't need to.
Right.
I get to anchor what I know. So in your awareness right now, I'm asking you, what do you know? What do you know is true? More than any of the principles, any of the concepts, any of the places that you will take yourself on this journey, what do you know? And if you're uncertain, this is your calling. When I say everywhere I am, I mean it into the absolute marrow of my bones. I know that there is no place where the living presence, where love intelligence is absent. There is no place in all of existence where God is not. In the darkest of places, God is. I'm sure the potato and the rutabaga and the carrot, deep down in the soil, know that they're not alone. The darkest places, seeds require that darkness. And if you are feeling like you are being surrounded by darkness, guess what stage you're in? You are the seed. You are the seed that is being held in darkness so that you can get that nutrient-rich soil. Because the darkness is just a plane of existence, right? It's just a plane. But the planes of existence are not just physical locations. They're also dimensions. And so if you recognize that you are on a dimension of being where you are a seed, the energy and the qualities that you're holding, that one thing that you know, if you'll lean in with me and know that there is no place where God isn't, you're never lost. You may not know exactly what Waze is trying to do with you. You may be on the side streets. You may be in the back alleys. You may be cutting across 4-lane highways because Waze told you so. Waze doesn't always know the way. But I'm here to tell you that the seeds that are being nurtured in this time are going to birth something into existence that is far greater than anything we've ever known.
Yes.
Humanity has gone through stages that are much more challenging and much more scarier than this. You know, that I'm not a medical professional by any means, but I believe them when they say you'd rather not have COVID season the way you have flu season. Because there was a time when the flu didn't do what the flu does now. But because we lived in a world that didn't have the technology and the ability to provide us with this wisdom that we have now, we have flu season. And so as we make these changes just on the physical plane, we can prevent other things from happening. I take it very sincerely, not overly serious, that we have such opportunities. Again, when Raina was talking to Rob earlier and asking what artists would be doing now, the thing that occurred to me was, what are all of the platforms artists are using to share their gifts already that you've been kind of playing around with, maybe utilizing? What are all of the artists that have been wanting to write their own projects that were always too busy trying to pay the bills going to do now? What are the parents who have been longing for more time with their children going to do all of a sudden now that they have more time with their children? And what has the world needed now more than ever, which is unity? And this situation is calling us to come together faster and quicker than anything that we've ever known. Humanity is being called forth not just in America, not just in Italy or Russia or China. We're being asked to come together and set aside our own selves for a moment and be there for each other. Earlier, Patricia and Reverend Keith were talking about the ways that people are extending themselves now. There are so many people now that have the opportunity to do with what they have that they haven't. The abundance that you have can be spread a little bit differently than you would have before. I had tickets to go see Alvin Ailey this week. I had tickets to go see Terrence Blanchard at the Music Center last night. Of course, all of these things have been canceled. But the opportunities that I now have has absolutely to be rooted in the spiritual principles that I live by. So if it's everywhere I am and I have some resources and I know others are in need of resources, I'm not losing anything by giving more to Soul Center, by giving more to my friends who are not working, to be giving more to my friends who are artists, to, if I have it, ask people to drop me your Cash App, drop me your PayPal, whatever it is, send me your Venmo ID so I can randomly send you $5, $10, $25. We can be creative in a way that we have never been before, and we can live in the everywhere I am consciousness. Yes. We can live in the joy, we can live in the beauty, we can live in the peace, but it starts with us. If we don't know what we can give because finances is not our thing, but the creative inspiration that you have is. Your social media timeline can be flooded with the goodness and the joy and the beauty that you harness here at Soul Center. You can be sharing the messages from Reverend Keith, last week from Akili. You can begin to operate and function in the world because the world needs your light now more than ever. Yes. More than ever. I've always marveled at the symbol of the yin-yang, and the thing that I woke up to a long time ago was to remember that the light is in the dark and the dark is in the light. That all of existence contains both of these things. Here's the other piece though. When I turn up my light, there is nothing darkness can do about it. When I turn up my light, darkness is chased out of the room. And so I get to choose when I'm going into the darkness to do that excavation, to explore the unknown. And then in the places where things that look like darkness, fear, doubt, worry, uncertainty, unemployment, no path in sight. Like when you were younger, maybe you tried to walk around the house in the dark because you didn't want to turn the light on until you got to the kitchen and got your snack before you could get back to the bedroom so nobody in the house woke up. You know you stumbled into the coffee table and you bumped into the couch, but at some point you made it there. You have the ability to lean into this idea, this principle of everywhere I am. There is no place, there is no location, there is nowhere you have ever been, that you will ever be, that God is not. Yes?
Yes.
And so when you lean into that, you can be like Reverend Arlene was when she was at Trader Joe's the other day. Reverend Arlene shared in our meeting, we had a practitioner meeting yesterday, and Reverend Arlene shared how the stress and the anxiety that people were experiencing in the grocery store. I mean, we've never seen an empty meat case. We've never seen the frozen food section in the grocery store completely cleared out. And those types of things can immediately activate your anxiety if you allow it. If you see the anxiety and then you bring your attention to it, you can navigate it differently. However, Reverend Arlene is steeped in principle. She's in there grabbing what she needs, all that's gone, grab the other thing. By the time she gets to the checkout counter, the checker's like, wow, you're so calm. And just like that, she was able to elevate the experience of the employees that are dealing with all of the other people who are moving around unconsciously. Everywhere I am, I'm certain that if you walk into these same places consciously, aware of any sort of triggers, any sort of fear that comes up within you, doing your practice, becoming clear that that's not reality, becoming clear that who and what you are is more than this, by the time you... I found spaghetti on the bottom of the shelf in the back. So like it was as if everybody grabbed the ones that were on the shelf and some got pushed down. I was like, there's got to be some oh yeah, I see you, whole wheat pasta. I'm coming for you. And it was just like that. That was the experience. We will not navigate this the way others do who do not know what we know.
Amen.
We know a thing. We are living a thing. This is our life. This is not an illusion. We don't do this for play. We don't do this because it makes a lot of money. We do not do this because we want prestige. We do this for our own soul. We do this for the soul of humanity. We come together in places and spaces like this. Nobody wants to do their inner work. Nobody wants to figure out what mom and dad did or didn't do and realize they weren't supposed to do it. Here's a cheat code for you. Everything that your parents did or did not do was necessary for you to become who you have become. There may be some things that you still want to heal or transform, but they were not any more conscious than they could be at the stage and in the world that they lived in. And so they raised you based on what they knew. But you have continued to grow and to expand, to heal, to transform, to transcend all of these limiting ideas. The world is not what 1950 was. It's not 1980. It's not even 2000. And what the world would be in 2025 and 2045 is nothing like the limited ideas, and we're continuing to expand. Reverend Michael always talks about the idea that in the 70s and the 80s when they were meditating, they were the weirdos.
Yeah.
You know, they were the ones that do you see that LeBron James has an app that's always promoting meditation now? The most popular basketball player is sponsoring and telling the world, it's one thing to perfect my body. it's another thing to hold my mind. Holding your mind in a time like this, you don't even have to say anything to anybody that gets troubled in these conversations. You hear them, and you know the truth about them. In the midst of gossip, in the midst of fear, in the midst of COVID-19, everywhere I am, God is, we are, that's it, that's all, that settles it. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm going to invite Reverend Keith up to join me. It's in your hand, Patricia. And I'm going to ask Reverend Keith to join me as we extend a word of prayer out. This is what happens when he shows up and we don't know he's coming. We can engage him too. So we just take this opportunity, and I want you to, as we enter into prayer, I want you to take a posture that puts you wide open in your chair. It could be hands on your lap. It could be hands up high. Whatever it is, I just want you to be right now the opening. And so as we close our outer eye and open up the inner eye, I establish this place and this field of gratitude. Grateful for Soul Center, grateful for Reverend Keith, grateful for Reverend Michael, grateful for Agape, grateful for Ernest Holmes, grateful for all of these teachers and the guides and the principals and the awakening that we are continually having right now. Rooted in this awareness, I speak the knowing that God is, that the everywhere I am reality of God is so now as my life, as our life, that it is moving, living, and having its beingness as each of us, as our world, as the race consciousness, as all that is flowing in the mind of humanity. And I speak a blessing. I speak a blessing over all that is moving, all that is unfolding, all that we are actively doing in our lives. I bless all of the activity. I bless all of the thoughts. I bless all of our stillness. And I invite in all of the things that are being called forth for our growth, our development, our transcendence, our liberation. We are so much more. We are so much more light, so much more love, so much more beauty, so much more peace. And I speak this in this room, knowing that it is not just for those that are under the sound of my voice. It is not just for those that are streaming in, but this is expanding and unfolding exponentially around the world. We embrace the entirety of humanity, all living beings. We hold this space, and I pass the word to Reverend Keith.
And how grateful I am to just be a completely and benevolently vulnerable being of light, that we open our hearts, our bodies, our minds, our souls, and we are only susceptible to the holy light of God. We open to that deliberately remembering the truth of our divine nature and choosing to embody it, to allow that revelation, that knowingness to take us deeper and rise us higher in our own magnificence, that we say yes to a greater and grander vision and version of our lives than ever before, and that we always and only grow in benevolent and beautiful ways. We choose to participate in the elegance of the universal presence.
Yes.
We are the beloved in whom God is so pleased, and we are saying yes to blessing everything and everyone right now. We bless everyone around the world, knowing that they are the beloved, and that we have said yes to blessing them and to the great remembering of knowing who they truly are, as we rise above the illusion of illness or constriction or restriction, and we rise into the truth of our divine nature.
Yes.
From a compassionate, loving place of divine strength. We bless it so. We give thanks for all of this and so much more. We are grateful to simply allow it all to be. We claim it so. We allow it to be so. By saying, and so it is.
And so it is.
Amen.
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 Ashe.
Ashe.
Aho.
Aho.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Hotep.
Hotep.
And hallelujah.
Hallelujah.